in school for saying the word dick. And I was about to take that shit to the Supreme Court. But it turns out they only hear 100 cases a year, and mine wasn't good enough.
Wait, is that really how it works? Not enough time? Yes. But this was worth their time.
They're a bunch of old people. They spend most of their time dying.
Not fast
This
enough,
is also
I say.
the big show, baby. This ain't no corrupt judge in whatever county. This is the big. This is the big top.
You sound like you're after somebody.
Do you know there are district courts?
What do you mean?
Found that out. They always say like the Ninth Circuit Court or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, you were talking about this.
I didn't know what that meant. I know what that means now. It's kind of a boring answer.
Oh.
They just divide the country up into 9 or 10 circuits.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought.
Wait, how many
yeah.
states are in a circuit?
It depends.
Huh.
We're in the 3rd circuit currently, which is just PA, New Jersey, and Delaware.
Which one's the worst? Did anyone get stuck with all the, you know?
I don't know. Like
all the trash states?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the 7th circuit is just like the dead middle of the country. I'm sure their cases are real thrilling. He stole my deer off my lawn. I don't know what people in the middle of the country do.
Wow, there's never been a bigger disconnect between Middle America and the coast. It's you saying somebody stole the deer off my property.
Well, you know,
All right, what do you think their impression of us is?
bunch of pretentious. What's a word that they
Liberal?
use? Libtards. Yeah, that's it.
Somebody stole my Nintendo off my porch. That's their impression
Why
of
is there
you.
Nintendo on your porch?
Why is there a deer belonging to somebody in their yard?
With that, I think it's finally time that we put an end to this stupid video games as a free speech debate.
Yo, spoiler. Not the end. No, this is gonna come up again.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Which, of course, all of us sane and like-minded individuals being on the side of games, of course. I hope. I don't know what you guys think.
Now that I am above the age of 18, I don't think kids should play violent video games because I get to, and I don't want to hop on Overwatch and get schooled by a 12-year-old who's on summer break.
Agreed.
true.
Also, I'm
Even though Overwatch is teen.
unless
Well, that
it
means
has,
he's still a year younger than he should be.
unless it hasn't been made clear from the rest of these episodes, I'm very anti-video
It's
games.
true. We wanted to round out this table, really, just to have someone
Can I
representing
get?
the
Am
other
I going to
side.
get political this episode?
I like video games.
Oh, I hope so.
I like video games, but I'm pro censorship.
Let that sit. All right.
You know, it'd be great irony if we cut that out. He was like, "I'm pro."
Fit whatever we want there. Sorry, I'm just gonna make me reading this intro as long as possible.
Sorry, I'm gonna wait till you start and then cut you off.
Today at Hotline, we're going to follow up our great and recently released, please go listen to it, ESRB Saga, where we explain not only the beginning of video game violence and its backlash, but also the origins of the self-regulated organization that was formed to handle these issues and protect video games by identifying any of their adult content, to then rate them into specific age categories so that all the politicians, parents, and consumers could finally be happy, while the good people working hard to make these products would then be free to focus on their art without the fear of any more stiffs breathing down their creative necks. Whew. That was a mouthful.
You could have just said rated B for bureaucracy.
But sounds great, right? All this. Well, let's just say it didn't take all that long for those arguments to come back up again, especially when all these achievements in technology continued. I'm Randall Beatrice, and I'm here with Chris Anantuano.
Hey, what's up?
And host for today, Austin Blakesley,
Host.
who is going...
you're hosting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
Nice.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
That was a lot of work, the ESRB one. That's why I'm glad he took this one. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's these last couple topics, man. How many court filings did you watch on YouTube? I forget.
A lot.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Randy
and the
got
one-
the lucky end of the stick because Senate hearings are hilarious. It's just a bunch of
They are.
old people being like, what's this light gun do? This is teaching kids to kill people. And then the people who make it are just like, no, grandpa, that's not how it works. Like, it's all out of touch old people. The fucking Supreme Court is smart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of their arguments were...
Well, except for that one guy who raped somebody.
He was not on the Supreme Court during this court hearing.
Good.
But yeah, it's interesting. There's more information to it.
Yeah. This is why, but
It's a little boring.
But I'm glad you took this one, just because it's like but we wanted to put these episodes together back to back, so I do recommend checking that, just because that ESRB one leads really well into the story, but, you know, they are separate
Also,
entities.
similar to the ESRB one. If you have not heard our hot coffee episode, you should go listen to that
Yes.
because that
a
is
bunch of our episodes come up in this.
This is gonna come
yeah,
up,
this is
yeah.
a good collection of stories kind of all together into one big thing here. But Austin, why don't you recite to us all the story of how the little industry that would come to make its biggest achievement in the war against games yet? You know, remember when you said a couple episodes back that you're tired of constantly having to read through court cases?
yes.
Well, which one did
Hey,
you?
yo, yo.
Which one did you want to start with today?
I didn't read any court cases this
Oh,
time.
just all videos?
I listened to the audio books of court cases.
Okay, which one had the dogs in it?
That was the Supreme Court one.
okay. That was the best
That
one.
was adorable.
But yeah,
Okay.
take us
So,
on the tail.
In our last episode, we said the ESRB was founded after a series of Senate hearings?
Congressional hearings.
Congressional hearings. In 1994.
Yeah. For more
Okay.
on that, please check out Hot Button episode 17 through 19.
Don't say numbers.
They're numbered when they come out.
We have no control over this thing. And in the end of those episodes, you'll hear this: the Congress is just like, "All right, you form the ESRB, we'll lay off."
Yeah.
that was a lie.
Yeah.
So throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, especially as Randy said, with the advent of 3D games and technology getting better and better, many politicians almost instantly felt like the ESRB wasn't good enough. After they said in Congress that the ESRB was good enough and that they would lay off, they instantly started to feel like the ESRB might not be good enough, that minors were still getting their hand on violent video games, especially after another episode we did, Columbine.
For more on that, please check out I don't remember what episode that is.
Don't say numbers. It gets
Those are
confusing.
A lot of these pushes were actually where that new rating E10 Plus came from,
Yes.
and all those extra content descriptors that you read off last time too.
The,
They mean the same
the ESRB came under fire pretty much instantaneously. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really had faith in it. But we're going to play another Austin Blakesley's game show corner where you guys have to guess numbers. Because apparently I was too good at math and I can't not have number games in my fucking episodes.
Let's have some fun.
Because of this, and you guys probably remember this, but in the early 2000s, the ESRB actually did a lot of enforcement at retailers. They had commercials for the ESRB to warn parents,
Yeah,
to like
yeah, that
inform
was part of
parents
their
about what it
campaign.
was.
I got carded.
They made penalties a lot worse for breaking the ESRB's rules, kind of
the fines.
fines and stuff like that. And I found out that the FTC, who is going to come up later because the FTC is the government agency that would regulate games
Yeah.
had there been a law put in place for the government to regulate games. But the FTC does do a study every couple of years or so.
These secret shoppers, I guess.
Yes.
Collect all
So
this
they
data?
send
Yeah.
out secret shoppers who are underage to retailers across the country, and they have them buy things like M-rated video games,
Cigarettes,
parental advisory
CDs.
R-rated DVDs and Blu-rays, and the unrated DVDs and Blu-rays that people put out, as well as R-rated movie tickets.
Yeah. But not cigarettes and alcohol. That's definitely
That's different.
Okay.
That is the FDA.
okay.
Or
right.
the ATF, one of them. So they did it in 2000, and then again in 2001, again in 2003, 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010, and the last instance I could find was 2012. So we have 8 different years that they did this.
Okay.
Who wants to take a guess? Okay, first of all, we're going to take a guess at what industry is the best at policing this and what industry is the worst.
Okay. I'm gonna guess the worst is. It's got to be either CDs or DVDs.
Yeah, I was gonna say music or DVD. Yeah, it's just because like think about like if you go to like Target and buy a CD, like do you think they're
Target
gonna?
doesn't have parental advisory, or they
Oh.
don't carry. I
Oh,
think
alright.
Target and Walmart don't have.
Alright, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, but
I don't
like,
know. I
but
don't
that's
think
the
I've
thing. The
ever-
only retailers that leaves left are small ones that wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the only places that I think I ever even saw carding for a DVD was like Blockbuster when they existed. I guess. I don't know if Best Buy ever.
I'm gonna say video games is the best.
I'm gonna say video games is the best too, because I mean that's what I was carded for the most.
So,
but that's what I probably bought the most of.
Video games are now the best.
Okay.
Going
I worked at a movie theater, so I could
Going
say
into
that.
the 2010s, video games were far and away the best at preventing minors from getting access to material they shouldn't have. Music has always and probably always will be the worst.
worst.
You guys were bright.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, when this started, it was actually movies that were the
like
best.
theaters.
Theaters.
Okay, yeah.
R-rated tickets.
They started to crack down on
So-
this. I worked at a pretty.
Let's go through these numbers. Like
Low
apparently
end
they didn't
theater.
check. They didn't do DVDs for the first half of this.
Okay.
Probably because in their 2000s DVDs weren't that prominent, I guess.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were just temporary. They were just a phase.
Oh, I don't think kids in general buy DVD movies much, even when they work.
I think this also includes rentals, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
So for 2000, 2001, and 2003, there's not going to be any DVDs. It's just going to be R-rated movie tickets, music, and games.
Makes sense.
So music and games were actually tied in 2000 at 85%.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Movies were at 46%. Music went up to 90%. Games went down to 78%. Movies stayed where they were.
What, in 2001?
2001.
I mean, games were relatively newer medium.
Yeah. And the ESRB
Not
was
carding
new.
for video games. Probably one of the worst things to happen in 2001.
Newer.
I'm just kidding. It was
mainstream
something much
medium, I
worse,
guess.
obviously.
Freddy Got Fingered came out.
Zoolander came out. Oh, you're going to say Avenue?
Zoolander's great.
Oh, no. Let's just move on.
2003, movies went down to 36%. Games went down to 69%.
Dude. All right, let's
Nice.
hop on, everybody. Good night.
And music was at 83%. And we get into 2006. We got movies at 39%. DVDs, unrated and R-rated, at 71%.
Unrated's funny because there's some movies that are unrated that aren't necessarily.
Yeah,
That
no.
doesn't explicitly mean that.
Which is really funny because there's a very interesting argument here about nudity versus violence that we'll get to later.
Oh, that old chestnut.
That old chestnut. Music was at 76%.
Jinx.
Games went down to 42% in 2006.
Whoa, what happened?
The ESRB cracked the fuck down
Yeah.
after
GameStop probably got
after
bigger.
hot
Yeah,
coffee.
that's true. Oh, right, duh.
Yeah.
2006.
2006 was
Yeah,
after
so
hot coffee.
right after the 360 and the hot coffee. Yep.
Then we're going to go to 2008. Movies, 35%. DVDs R-rated, 47%. DVDs unrated, 51%. Music, 72%. Still above 50.
Was hot coffee the transition that video games were no longer toys? Was that like when parents saw them differently?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, like
I absolutely think it
Funkoland
was.
totally felt like a toy store when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Once those pixels started fucking
And
video games. Were...
2008, games went down to 20%.
Okay, yeah, that's respectable.
2009, movies, 28. DVDs are 38. Unrated, 47. Music, 72. Games
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even
games
carding for
stayed at
music.
20%.
okay.
Then we go 1 year later to 2010. Movies, 33%. R-rated DVDs, 38%. Unrated DVDs, 47%. Music, 64%. Games, 13%.
We did it.
See, even if like getting carded for an R-rated movie is more obvious, it's way easier to sneak into one than to buy an M-rated game back before digital was a thing. If you
Yes.
were underage,
Yes.
otherwise you just your edgy CD or DVD was way easier.
And then, like I said, the last...
Our guest Chris, who was on here, was laughing at me once when I got carded like a year or so back. Like we went to a liquor store and then at GameStop, I got ID'd at the GameStop.
Not the liquor store.
Yeah. Must have shaved that day.
And then the last year they have data available 2012. Movies, 24%. DVDs, 30. Unrated DVDs, 30. Music, 47. They finally got it under 50%. And games are still at 13%.
That's
And
because by
apparently
that
there's-
time, nobody's fucking buying CDs,
CDs
anymore.
anymore? Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
They
Yeah.
actually never got a control on it. It's just CD sales went down and down
But
and
this-
down.
Well, we talked about me and Austin talked about music censorship before and how they're doing it back. Like it makes no sense that like the radio's edited that older people listen to, or like CDs have edited CD. Like when YouTube and streaming and everything's uncensored, which is what
Yeah.
kids are using to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, censoring music is obviously
But
dumb anyway. But
this is actually important because that covers all of the 2000s up into this court case. The court case started in the end of 2010 and ended right before 2012. So it's important to note that this court case was right when the ESRB was knocking it out of the park
yeah,
at an 87% success rate.
good time to get attacked.
That was when the Supreme Court passed down its ruling, was in 2011. We're going to cut back once again to hot coffee. More specifically, though, just Grand Theft Auto San Andreas kind of in general.
Okay.
Because Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was when Jack Thompson was at his peak and he was
Yeah.
going after Rockstar, and this hot coffee thing didn't help. It made, I think, a lot of parents realize what their kids might be playing.
Yeah, GTA was no stranger to controversy even before that. It's-
No, yeah.
there was probably a myriad of reasons that parents were already angry at Hot Coffee or at San Andreas before Hot Coffee even came out. I mean,
but because of this, and Vice City and GTA 3, 2005 actually brought about
solid trilogy.
2 laws
One of these we
related
did
to
bring
violent
up
video
before,
games.
yeah.
The first one, which was mentioned in the Hot Coffee episode, is called the Family Entertainment Protection Act, proposed by Hillary Clinton, and co-sponsored.
Hillary emails Clinton.
And co-sponsored by our buddy Joe Lieberman.
Oh, I was hoping you have a funny name for him too.
More like Joe Lieberman. I don't know.
Fucking right here, buddy.
As well as Tim Johnson, no funny name needed there, and Evan Bay.
His last name's spelled dumb.
Tim Johnson was
Bay is has an H in it.
South Dakota, and Evan Bay, Bayh, from Indiana.
Yeah, obviously rhymes with gay. We don't need to say that, right?
Okay, so this law was trying to propose a very similar penalties to selling violent video games to minors that it would to selling cigarettes or alcohol to minors.
They up their punishments in this, right?
Yeah, so it's $1,000 or 100 hours of community service for, they say, a manager, like an on-duty manager when the crime was committed, which is weird to me because it's like...
It's not against the law.
Well, it would be.
Oh, that was per this bill, right?
Yeah, that was per this bill.
Okay, yeah.
But like, if you work, so say you work at GameStop and you're the manager and one of the employees, like,
you're held responsible.
The corporation doesn't get in trouble. You as an on-duty manager at GameStop making minimum wage is apparently going to get $1,000 fine.
I know,
I don't exactly think that's it, but I don't fully understand what they were proposing.
Well, I know. I mean, like, it's like there's like, if you're a bartender, you're held liable for.
Yeah, say if you work at Wawa and sell cigarettes to someone.
Totally, but that's you serving someone directly. Like that doesn't have the in between. But that is strange.
That was for the first offense, and then it would jump up to $5,000. Typo. Or 500 hours. I wrote 5,000. 500 hours of community service.
What are you in here for?
For any subsequent offenses.
I sold a kid a copy of Catherine.
Which is like, that was like the main point of the law, but here's where it gets bad. And here's where the law kind of failed. Is that other proposals were the ESRB would move from being, the ESRB would stay a private corporation, but that they would be regulated by the FTC.
That kind of defeats the...
So every year the FTC would, they do it with the FDA does it and stuff like that. But the FTC would butt in once a year and review the ESRB's methods. And basically, in the way that like the FDA rates restaurants, like the FTC would be able to rate the ESRB and tell them to change what they're doing.
Do they keep up with it once a year?
We'll get to it, but this never passed.
Oh, okay.
This law never passed, but
I was about to say,
things would be way different.
You think tech companies are just like fucking wild westing our data right now, and then but the ESRB gets checked in on every year. And in cases like Hot Coffee, which if this law was passed would have happened with our other episode, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, in cases like that, the FTC would be able to come in and investigate the ESRB, fire people, tell them how they're doing things wrong, fine them, things like that.
Fuck, man.
Part of me says, but like to get the system right, like you want the system to work. So it's like, okay, but it never works that way.
Government regulation is not the way to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, it's just like, stay the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should say part of me doesn't agree, sympathizes with like why people would think this is okay.
Right, yeah.
The reason
we want the system to work,
it's a
get some help,
The
reason that the ESRB, because private corporations rating things, as we learned from the 2008 financial crisis.
Yeah.
Rating things for profit is much worse idea than government intervention.
Oh yeah.
But the reason the ESRB works is because instead of the FTC checking with them, they have to deal with the ESA, and the ESA has a vested interest in the ESRB doing its job, because then shit like this happens if they don't.
You're right.
Another step in the bill, this would allow consumers to file complaints on specific video games through the FTC.
See, that's why it's scary to think about some of these alternatives. There's so many little bullet points. Like each one of these is like...
The FTC has a consumer complaint
Well, it's
yeah,
a consumer
yeah.
protection
Right,
agency,
yeah.
but it has a consumer complaint department where you can complain about businesses, and then they'll get investigated by the FTC. But they wanted to make it so that parents would be able to like complain about video games as an industry, and then they would get investigated by the FTC if they got enough complaints.
Damn.
And the only thing included in this bill that still stands is that part of this bill would be to allow for and fund those retailer audits that I mentioned above, the Secret Shopper program.
Yeah.
But that there would be penalties if they didn't do it right. Like if video games came in under a certain threshold, instead of just being like, here, public,
Are there
be
not
aware.
penalties?
No, because it's not.
Well,
It's not against the law.
I mentioned already, but when I worked at a theater, they would send like kids to.
Those are press releases.
Oh, that's
So-
just to ruin your brand, I guess.
No, they come out and they're like, hey, parents,
gain
take a look at
information-
this.
yeah,
You're-
exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, this theater chain does a better job
It's
than this
consumer
theater
information.
That's a good way to release information like that to the public to let them make an informed decision about it. Is how it
chain. Sure,
should be.
yeah, I guess.
Okay, but like I said above, that bill was not passed.
No, because it's a gross invasion
Yeah.
of company.
Not without trying. I think that like for whatever
How come
reason,
they ever pass a bill? It's like 30 ideas rather than just like.
Gotta get it all in.
I
yeah.
know, and it's just so funny.
you might want to check out a show called House of Cards. Just pretend that there's not a pedophile on screen, but House of Cards actually does a good job at showing you just how fucked up the government is,
Right.
because like the way they
Yeah.
they shoehorn weird shit into bills to
into
get
other
it passed.
bills. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, bill was never passed. I don't think it was like people argued it out of the Senate. I think it was just like it was 2005, so the Senate had more important things to deal with.
Yeah.
But
yeah, 2005.
at the same time,
666 was right around the corner. Yeah. They had to prepare for the ritual.
Y2K2, as I call it. But second, a law was being proposed in the state of California by our boy Leland Yee.
Recurrent character, Leland Yee.
recurring GTA villain Leland Yee.
This fucking guy.
And if you want to find out his fate, you can check out the Hot Button episode. Was that where Leland Yee came up? Or no, not Hot Button. Sorry, Hot Coffee.
Our naming convention there.
He was
was
actually became a saint, right?
He's a criminal.
Oh, that's right.
We need to. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up about like revisiting people. I know we mentioned that who went to write for Breitbart in our first. Was that
Kurt Schilling.
Schilling,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was actually him.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about the Ouya episode, and
Yeah.
where did she go?
She's the digital media manager or digital media president for Playboy now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do Where Are They Now?
yeah. That's just
They're
so
all,
funny.
Oh, that's such a good idea. Okay,
is a
tune
good
in
idea.
soon for the Where Are They Now episode of Hot Button.
Leland Yee's not in jail, is he?
Oh, is he a
He might-
politician? No.
Let me do a little quick Google. You guys keep talking, but I am fairly certain that he is very much incarcerated. Yeah. On February 24th, 2016, he was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. As of March 25th, 2016, he is
He's
incarcerated.
still chilling in there.
Yep.
All right. See you in a couple of years, Leland.
Yeah, so, but he proposed a law called, instead of something clever like the Family Entertainment Protection Act, this was called AB 1179.
THX 11. Why? What did
I
that
think
mean?
that's in the state
that
Senate.
standard?
They don't need it to be like flashy. They're just
No,
like
it's okay. Because it was just funny because the other bill was like a very long and to the point like sentence, and this is just like I don't know.
I think state senates are different.
No.
But yeah, this is a similar law to the one I just talked about.
And this is in California, right?
This is just in California, and this is the far more important one in this episode because this wasn't a national law, and I guess the California Senate doesn't have as much to do as the national Senate. This one was not struck down. Yeah, limited the sale of video games to people 18 and over.
Wait, all video games? You just mean M-rated? But M-rated ones are 17
I'll get
and
there,
up.
but
Okay.
violent video games, and this is going to be
That's pretty vague.
This is going to be a point of contention because,
Right.
yes, you can't use the ESRB because M rating is 17 and older, and this is 18 and older. So
Okay. Yeah.
there's a difference.
Welcome to my bill, undermining an organization.
Once again, we have $1,000 infraction for any violations.
Sure.
Although I think this was a crime too, so you might have to go to court.
Okay.
just pay a fine. But this was interesting. This law used a variation of another law called the Miller test.
I've heard of this.
Yes.
It's kind of dumb. It's like an obscenity thing.
The Miller test is used for porn. So the
Right.
Miller test is a three-prong obscenity test
Right,
to determine
yeah.
whether speech or expression can be labeled
As
as
art?
obscene, and in which case it is not protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
But this gets kind of gamey when it comes to things like satire. Like
Yeah,
can it?
it's...
It's like John Waters.
We'll get there. We'll get there, but it's very interesting because they keep comparing violence
to pornography.
in video games to obscenity in pornography, and the thing is, it's like, there's boobs on the screen, or a vagina, or a dick, and it's like, that's obscenity, like,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like, they use the phrase common sense a lot, like, there's no specific rule for what obscenity is, but it's like, I know it when I see it, it's common sense.
The better word would be relative.
Yeah. Well, they bring that up in Parks and Rec when there's one time where Leslie is defending the painting of her that Jerry did, the topless one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, I think it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's like, I don't have any rules to define pornography, but I know it when I see it or something. That's from this case.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay. I've heard that quote before.
Yeah. So the three prongs of the Miller test are
Pornography's pretty weird nowadays. I don't
Yeah.
know.
You'd have a hard time judging
Yeah.
what it is.
it doesn't have to be, right? You don't have to be like, well, kids can see porn unless it's like somebody peeing on somebody. No, it's like
I like
there's
the porn on Pornhub that's hilariously not obscene at all. it's just people uploading like
What about YouTube? There's plenty
football
of there's
games
plenty
and
of,
like
well, that's the thing. It's like,
B-movie,
is a
clips.
boob on screen? Yes, obscene.
no.
All right, what about Roblox boobs?
There's not many context. Well,
But it only applies to porn, which is weird. Because like movies, they can be
there's
obscene,
nudity in
but
movies all the time.
you can't
And
show
games and
vaginas or
TV.
hard dicks, I guess, in movies.
Hell yeah,
I mean,
buddy.
not to like break this down completely, but I think some movies have argued their way into.
There's a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
But let me go through these three prongs real quick. Okay. Whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find the work taken as a whole appealing to prurient interest.
I don't know what that means.
That is going to come up a lot. Prurient interest is basically appealing to natural desires, like our baser instincts, kind of.
All right.
Right? It's like
It's getting so
like it's
esoteric.
like it's like you see a boob and then you're gonna lose control, right? Because you're just an animal
That's
at
me,
that
buddy.
point. That's you.
Hide your boobs.
Let's just debase all of human like nature and interaction. And
Prong
just-
number 2: whether the work depicts or describes
Prongs are like boobs.
He's already losing it.
whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct or excretory functions specifically defined by applicable state laws.
So a horse shitting in Red Dead, that's obscene.
Yes. Depending on what state you're playing it in, I guess.
This is all post South Park, by the way.
No, this is not post South Park.
Oh wait, how old
This
is
is
this?
from
Oh, this is from the
1973.
70s.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot we're still talking about the Miller test.
Yeah, we'll get to the revised version for video games, but
Revised
prong number 3
version.
of the Miller test: whether the work taken as a whole lacks serious. This
This
is my
isn't that
favorite
long
one.
after you couldn't show a
This is
toilet
my
on
The first
television.
one was my favorite. It's so like
No.
weirdly subjective.
Wait, listen
Yeah.
to this, because this is going to come up a lot in the video game one. This is very important. Whether the work taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value.
Scientific value.
Whoa.
So, like, if you're doing a video on on how to give a mammogram or whatever,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
can show a boob because you have to show them feeling up the boob, but that has scientific value.
Sorry, I thought it was backwards. I thought that.
Oh, if it did have
Yeah,
scientific
that's why I
value,
was
it's
like-
obscene.
that's
No,
why I was like, what the hell? Sorry, yeah.
that's why this is very important, because this is why movies get away with it,
Right.
because they have artistic value.
Because
Yes.
nobody can deny the
The
artistic
art-
value of a movie.
You're right,
It's so
exactly.
much harder.
Yeah.
The main argument of this law is going to be kind of that,
So
that
does
video
ener-
games don't have artistic value.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Even the most fucking weird, off the wall movie, your average person would still go like, "That's art. Movie's
Yeah,
art."
yeah,
like they'd be more willing to, because I think film's a more established art form.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I got that backwards. So anything with an educational or
Scientific,
Scientific,
political,
political.
So
Political can include
satire?
war footage and something. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Satire, entertainment purposes. Like,
Yeah.
Like
And it's interesting that you bring up entertainment purposes because that's going to come up a lot in the Supreme Court hearings.
Right.
Where it's like,
can you argue that just pornography is also art?
That's why National
No.
Geographic was voted best jerk-off magazine for kids under 12.
porn has one use according to the United States government, and that is to make us turn into animals and jerk
was-
on our things for a little bit,
I
and
thought
then
it was to make dubstep remixes.
and go to sleep. What, porn?
Yeah.
That's anime.
Was that anime porn?
Yeah, it's called hentai.
Imagine
hard
if
to
the
draw.
only way the porn industry could get around this was to make all porn comedic and then just say
That'd
it's for
be so
entertainment
funny.
purposes. That's all you had.
Oh my god, what if that's what they were trying to do in the 70s? So all that, like,
Oh,
All right.
I'm here to fix your sausage.
Stick to the script.
I'm here to
Come on,
fix
let me
your
roll with
sausages. Oh god. Okay, so flash forward back to 2005. Now we have our criminal buddy Leland Yee trying to adapt this Miller test into something that can be applied to video games because you can't make the law identical. You can't just say use the obscenity one because obscenity and violence are different, right?
Everything's a
Fast
political
forward
statement.
now, everything's pornography.
In a Christian country like America, obscenity has always and will always be a problem.
Right.
But guess what Christianity don't have a problem with? Fucking violence.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
So-
also having sex with underage kids. They also don't have a problem with that.
America does. But yeah, not the Catholic Church.
There goes all our Catholic listeners.
Yeah, I gotta go, guys. I'm sorry. Violent video game means a video game in which the range of options available to a player includes killing, maiming,
Whoa.
dismembering, or sexually assaulting an image of a human being. And this is very important that it says of a human being. If those acts are depicted in the game in a manner that does either of the following. 1. A reasonable person considering the game as a whole would find appeals to a deviant or morbid interest in minors. Number 2, it is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the community as to what is suitable for minors. 3, it causes the game as a whole to lack serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors.
I'm bringing it back.
And then the second subsection is, it also enables the player to virtually inflict serious injury upon images of human beings or characters with substantially human characteristics in a manner which is especially heinous, cruel, or depraved in that it involves torture or serious physical abuse to the victim.
Video games without killing, huh?
And-
Where do you
I
think
love Tetris. What
Where
are
do
you
you think
saying?
those blocks go when they disappear? They're dead.
The law was pitched in 2005. This was signed into law by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in October
God.
2005.
With the fucking hypocrisy.
Hold on, we'll get there.
Okay.
But it was actually a watered down version of the law by the time that
Oh.
it got there. So they still wanted to make all this stuff illegal, but the law eventually became mostly like, hey, you need to display on the box that it's a violent video game, like real
Which
big.
I feel like that was sort of already being done, but whatever.
Like, you know-
I did mention the ESB one that they eventually made the things big.
like the Surgeon General's warning on cigarettes, kind of.
Eventually, it's just going to be the whole fucking container.
Yeah.
Doom is just going to be an M on it. And tiny
But-
little O and D.
But before the passing of the law, our buddies from last episode, the ESRB three-parter, the ESA, and another agency, the Video Software Dealers Association, which is not the body that represents the makers of games, but the body that represents the sellers of games. So this would be
Oh, your
people like
retailers, I guess?
GameStop, Best Buy,
Yeah.
things like that,
Yeah.
who are
Coconuts.
now known as the Entertainment Merchants Association. Were working on a lawsuit that would overturn the law. And they were working on this lawsuit. The law didn't get signed in by the Terminator, and then they decided that shit, we got to fight this thing. Like the second the criminal dude signed, there's so many bad people. Yeah. The second that Leland Yee was like, hey, I got an idea, and they got wind of it, they immediately started their defense.
Yeah.
And their thought was that this redefinition of what a violent video game is, like Randy said, was very vague. And this is kind of the cornerstone of their defense, is that what is a violent video game, right? It's like you can say killing and maiming, but are you killing the enemies in Mario?
So little ghosts fly away.
They're not humanoid. The Goombas aren't humanoid, but like,
But you are killing them.
are the
They got
Koopas humanoid
faces.
enough? Yeah, like this law was so vague that somebody
Yeah.
else, some jury somewhere, could take it way out of context and ban every video game if they
Yeah.
wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
They were worried that they would throw a wrench into the ESRB's way of doing things, and that this would hurt the sale of certain games.
Totally. I mean, at this point, M-rated game titles were really broken through to the mainstream. Like,
And here's where we go through all of the court cases now. So the groups together, the ESA and the VSDA, or EMA, as they will now be known,
okay, all these acronyms.
I know, filed a joint appeal. Or no, a lawsuit. Sorry, not an appeal. A lawsuit, because there's going to be a couple of appeals later. They filed a lawsuit with the United States District Court for the Northern District of California to obtain an injunction and block the enforcement of this law. And they obtained said injunction temporarily. So they were like, we're going to investigate this further,
Right.
but for right now, you can't put this law into practice until we're done
Yeah.
ruling on it. That's what an injunction is,
okay.
for those that don't know. But U.S. District Judge Ronald M. White, spelled W-H-Y-T-E, because nobody's name can be spelled normally, apparently.
I thought that was a typo.
Nope. I copy and pasted this from an article on Gama Sutra.
That was Game Sutra.
I thought it was Kama Sutra.
Yeah, but it's games.
Kama Sutra.
It's Gamer Sutra.
Yeah, but the sex thing is the Kama Sutra.
It does, no, but like it's about video games. You can't. How do you pronounce games?
Goms. But yeah, Ronald M. White cited in his preliminary decision to grant them this injunction, the plaintiffs, being the state of California, have shown at least, or no, the plaintiffs being the ESA and the EMA, have shown at least that serious questions are raised concerning the state's ability to restrict minors' First Amendment rights in connection with exposure to violent video games, including the question of whether there is a causal connection between access to such games and any psychological or other harm to the children.
Second spoiler of the day. There isn't.
Yeah.
There is and there isn't.
Whatever.
We'll get there.
there is in the same way that everything is.
Yes, exactly. So that was 2006. This went on for all of 2006. The law was being blocked, but they were still fighting it. In August of 2007, the court permanently ruled in favor of the ESA and the EMA, saying that the law violated the First Amendment. This decision was made citing lack of proof that violent games were any different from any other mediums, and that violent behavior was linked to the playing of violent games at all.
Our first victory.
Yes.
Yeah, man, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's where the hypocrisy that Randy mentioned earlier comes in. In September of 2007, the governor himself appealed the ruling. He said that he would, quote, vigorously defend this law, and that, quote, everyone had a responsibility to our kids and our communities to protect against the effects of games that depict ultra-violence.
Oh my god!
This coming from the
irony,
goddamn
it's hurting me.
Terminator.
Like,
Yeah.
It's
And
like
the guy
no one
from-
ever saw any of his movies.
Yeah. This is the guy that was in Predator and Terminator
Commando,
and
The Running
Commando,
Man.
Total Recall.
Total Recall?
Predator, whose intro, Arnold notoriously throws a knife into
He's
a
just
man.
stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this dude has been profiting off extreme fake violence forever to
Half
the point
of
that
the-
he built an entire career off of it.
Half of the video games that they're playing are based off of the ethos of his action movies.
Yeah.
Oh my god! There's no way that nobody didn't laugh in that.
Oh,
fucking-
you mean from the entire time that the Austrian bodybuilder turned action movie star became a Republican nominee governor for the state of California?
I forgot about the bizarro land of like.
Yep.
Like we lived. Oh man.
So yeah, this whole thing is coming from the Terminator. Keep that in mind, everybody listening.
That's all I'm gonna
And
visualize.
everybody
the
at
whole
the
time.
table. All these arguments are coming from the goddamn Terminator, who has ripped people's limbs off in movies before. Whose entire political campaign was funded by ultraviolence.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But the appeal went through,
Jingle All the Way. That's a violent movie.
and this was an appeal to the 9th District Court. Like I said, this is, I want to say California, Portland, or not Portland, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, maybe Colorado. I think that's the 9th district, but this is this is basically the West Coast's court instead of just California, which
We're safe
California
over
is
here,
most
right?
of the West Coast, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ruled based on 3 aspects. The law applied for something called severability,
Okay.
which states that this was part of the appeal, not part of the original law.
I read that as severe
If-
ability.
Nope. Severability. Meaning that if part of the law was stricken down as unconstitutional, you can sever that part of the law off and continue on.
Good.
So if they found part of the law unconstitutional, say you're like, you can't block violent video games, but we still want them to be labeled or whatever, you can sever that part off and go ahead with the other part.
Okay.
So the law couldn't be just flat out ruled unconstitutional. Every part of it had to be ruled unconstitutional.
Right.
Which you said good, but this means that the ESA now has to argue that every part of the law is unconstitutional, not just part of it.
Okay. That sounds time consuming.
The court then had a very long discussion about the vagueness of the law and the scrutiny to which these games would be held to. There's a famous case called Ginsburg v. New York,
Yeah.
where a guy in Long Island, I believe, had a deli that also sold magazines, and he sold
porno?
porn to a bunch of
Yeah, let
16-year-olds.
me get a sandwich. A copy of tits and asses.
They get a hoagie.
Apparently, these 2 teenagers that he sent in were sent by their parents so that they could then lay the grounds for prosecution of this guy. It wasn't he just randomly sold it. Apparently, parents heard that this guy was selling porn to a bunch of kids in town, and they sent their kids in to buy the porn so that they could hire a lawyer and sue the shit out of him and
The Miller
prosecute
test
him.
didn't come back up here again, did it?
The Miller test was not a thing yet.
Oh, it's not early, huh?
This is the thing that kind of laid the
How
groundwork
does that
for
even
that.
come up if you're a kid? You just ask for it? Or is he like, you like a sandwich? You wanted to see some tits too?
It's a Happy Meal. It came with a little nudie mag.
And this was the Miller test wasn't around yet, but this was kind of where they just decided that they're like, no, if it's obscene, you can't sell it, and they ruled in against this guy. So again, they wanted to use the decision from Ginsburg versus New York, but the problem with Ginsburg versus New York was that it was about sex, and this was not about sex. This was about violence. So the ruling of
Both great.
the ruling of Ginsburg versus New York
Yeah.
did not apply, as violence and sex are and should be viewed differently. And in order for the law to pass, it had to be proven that these games were harmful to minors, which 15 years after our last episode still hasn't been shown.
No.
Yeah. So here's my favorite part, though. The last aspect of the law was that it required the labeling of said games as violent, so that parents knew when they were buying it for their kids.
Which
that,
is what the SRB was already doing.
right, but they wanted it to be more like I said, the Surgeon General's warning.
Yeah. Side effect: games may cause your kid to listen to Marilyn Manson.
Games make calls. Good times.
Good times.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
Fun nights. Long-term friendships.
Dorito consumption.
What?
The side effect of playing video games.
Oh, yeah. Glasses. I think that's the worst part about me playing games is that I have to wear glasses now because my eyes are worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
that's
with you.
like, didn't they say like people are sitting too close to screens? That's what's damaging their eyes. And then later on, it was revealed it's like it's not sitting too close to a screen or staring at a screen too much. It's just that focusing on any one thing for too long.
Yeah.
Because obviously
Yeah.
glasses existed before people were staring at screens all day.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
like a lot of the people who ended up wearing glasses were people who,
Except
who
for like
read a lot, or
hundreds and
were
hundreds
sculpting,
and hundreds of
painting.
years when there weren't, and if you just had fucked up eyes,
Yeah, that was
you
it.
just died.
You just looks like you can't
Yeah.
see.
But it was said in the court hearing that freedom of speech prohibits the government from telling people what they have to put on their packaging, except in cases where they are presenting factual and uncontroversial information, such as warnings that are included on things like cigarettes and alcohol.
The studies say.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
It is at this point a proven fact that smoking is bad for you.
Show me
So-
the evidence. Show me the
there's
So
evidence.
you know,
so much of
you know
it.
how countries they have a picture of the rotted lungs or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, so what would be the picture on the game box? Just like a nerd with glasses,
It's just like a kid.
braces.
I mean, if you want to
How
know,
do you take a picture of somebody who can't make friends in social situations because they relate to virtual worlds?
I think
We're really biting the hand that feeds us.
The image would probably be a kid in a straitjacket or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, that's no fun.
I want the screen to be a GIF from Bulletstorm of like someone just getting
Somebody
kicked into a
the nuts.
cactus.
Yeah.
It's just the close-ups from Sniper Elite where a sniper
Oh,
bullets
yeah,
going
the
through some
X-rays,
testicles. Yeah.
But Hitler's testicles.
But since the determination of a game being violent could not be proven as factual information, it could not be made law to include it on the labeling.
Shocking.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
And because of these three decisions, these 3 points that I just labeled, the law was once again knocked out of court for being unconstitutional.
Fucking good.
And again, the goddamn Terminator appealed. This time
Motherfucker.
to the highest power in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States.
I used to think that guy was cool.
All right, so that's where we're going to leave it for today. The main meat of the episode is the Supreme Court hearing, so we're going to leave that for next week. We're going to stop right here, right before the appeal. So, tune in next week to see what the hearings were like. I watched the entire Supreme Court oral arguments, so there were dogs. If you want to get prepped for that episode, you can go watch the dog video of them. The Supreme Court as dogs. It's adorable. The
chicken.
The stenographer is a chicken. It's adorable. There's a dog that's drinking out of a water glass. There's one that keeps pushing up his glasses, but the dog doesn't like it. It's hilarious.
One keeps fixing his tie.
But yeah, that's going to do it for today. Who wants to do plugs?
Plug time.
Is it me?
Yeah, you go for it.
All right, yeah. Follow us on Twitter.
You're the only one who actually knows.
Facebook, Instagram at Hot Button Cast. Then just download us on anything. We're on across the board. I don't know where you found us, but you know how to find podcasts.
Flyers.
Obviously.
Yeah. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, things like that.
Subscribe. Also, leave a review. Apparently, that helps the ranking.
Look for our messages in the sky.
Yeah. I did order a South American country to be overthrown, and the dictator's name will be Hot Button Cast. It's a new marketing technique. I don't know. One of them.
I thought it was an island.
He paid for the grab bag. It was cheaper, but he doesn't get to pick the specific country.
That's
yeah.
I guess the West. Never mind.